Oh, wait, what? What just happened? Christ, come on. I don't want to use that potion that quickly. And I'm gonna get poisoned for that one, aren't I? You know what? I am not okay with that. I am quite simply not okay with that outcome. Go make myself a milkshake in a little bit. Up. Yeah, whatever. If it's just money, I don't care. Damn it. I need to watch my freaking step. I'm gonna have to back out if I don't have something here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use a warp scroll. Son of a bitch. Unless I get some type of... Nope, no food here. I'm not losing all that shit that I just did. Nope, nope, not happening. Aha! That's much cheaper than other eyes. Let's see how quick. Useful. I need to go pee. Actually, I'm going to go right ahead and go make myself a milkshake too, because I feel it. Yeah. change that back. There we go. Eating a milkshake. How far down does this thread go? hair or a bug? Huh. Guess one of my hairs got in the blender. That is just my hair. Christ. I'm just not gonna be able to keep up anymore, am I? Oh wait, there was no point in even making that, was there? I must maintain the bird. Good bird. See? I need that bird. nice. I'm gonna go at this a few more times. The more food that I get from them, the longer I can last, so long as I don't get diminishing returns. I just gotta be quick to the swing with that. Good bird. I'll do it a couple more times. You know what? Yeah. I guess 2 is good. Let's go ahead and go. Well, that was lucky. That's really obnoxious. Stop. Forget. Stop. The controller's being a butt. There we go. Oh, I ain't getting in that way. I need to go down, apparently. Let's get that fucking chest. Aw. Keep fucking it up and panicking. Got it. Oh, hey, nice. Ugh. Okay then. What the fuck are you? What an abomination. That's gonna be hard to get back through. That's a boss. Means there's a save room right here. Sweet, let's go back. Got it. Stinky. Uh-oh. So I can definitely do a big number on it. I just need to figure out its pattern. Of course, a giant floating head. Why wouldn't it be? Why would it never not be? Or why would it ever not be? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Is that a grappling hook? Oh, nice. That'll open a lot of doors for me. Oof. In fact, a place over there I might be able to get to. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's get over there. guess not. Yeah, there's no way I'm making that one. Dun, 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 dun. Check the catapult mines. Ah, yes, there is a place where I can do that. Okay. Should be up top. Yes. Old crown. What's that do? Shit, that raises everything. Too bad bird's better. Very interesting. Alright, up there? Not sure what that room is. Ah! Nothing over here that I can get to yet. Okay then. Can't be right. Hey! I got the man's cards back. Okay, let's go this way. Bird up. No. What's going on over here? Nothing. Okay. I got that. Can't get this yet. place is a death trap. Wait, what? Canceled my stream? Oh, I just popped my big toe. Ah! Okay. I don't know, I had a cramp, dude. It's slow now. Why rush it?
Screen, you gotta wonder, is that stuff bad for you? And how do we know? Find out more here.
In The Legend of Zelda, combat has always been a big part of the game. You encounter hundreds of foes and gigantic bosses after all. And while we do get stuff like a bow and slingshot, there's one weapon that we use the most by far: the sword. Hacking, slashing and stabbing our way through anything that tries to stop us, and most of the time we use the Master Sword for this. However, there's also another magical blade in the series that can defeat the most powerful forms of evil: the Four Sword. But which one is better actually? Sure, they're both great at what they do, but there must be a superior blade, right? Well, yes, and today we will find out which one is best. Now in one corner we have the Master Sword, which was originally crafted by the goddess Hylia as the Goddess Sword, and was then later on forged into the Master Sword by the goddess's chosen hero and its spirit Vi. They bathed the blade in the 3 sacred flames located across the land that would become the Kingdom of Hyrule. Faeror's flame made the goddess sword longer, giving it extended reach and twice its original strength. Nehru's flame enhances the dowsing ability of the goddess sword, allowing Vi to search for rupees, treasures, gratitude crystals, and goddess cubes. And Din's flame filled the goddess sword with a
Campsite, I forgot. Are you still there? Who's staying? No.
sacred light, giving it 3 times its original strength and the power to repel evil. After this final tempering, it transformed into the Master Sword, becoming even stronger after being augmented by the blessing of Zelda, turning it into the true Master Sword. Clearly, this weapon is filled with a lot of power, reforged by powerful godly essences, and then blessed by the reincarnation of Hylia. However, in the other corner, we have the Force Sword, and unlike the other one, this blade was not originally of the world of Hyrule, nor did it originally go by that name. It began as a creation of a race of tiny, thumb-sized beings known as the Minish, and was known as the Picori Blade. It was used long ago together with the Light Force to defeat evil, being seen again during the events of the Minish Cap. However, it was remade and then combined with the 4 elements, which are crystalline jewels infused with the powers of the 4 major elements of the world, fueling the blade with all these elements to turn it into the mighty Force Sword, the most powerful weapon in the game. So instead of being made by a goddess empowered by their essences, it was made by a mysterious race in the power of the world's elements. And don't be fooled, those Minish guys are pretty darn strong, since their magical skills are unrivaled. Heck, the cap they created before the events of the game, which eventually led to all the problems with Vati, is so powerful that it allows you to wish for almost anything, just like the Triforce. So they're pretty good at it. Alright, now that we know what we're talking about, let's look into a couple of things to find out which one is the best. We're going to look at the blade's design, its abilities, and versatility. Now let's start off with our first one, the blade's design, which is actually incredibly important when you think about it, because what I mean with this is the usability of the weapon and where it gets its power from, because it needs to function well as a sword after all and have enough power. First of all, let's have a look at both of the blades and compare them, because there are some big differences between them which will mess with their effectiveness in battle. Now by the looks of it, the blades are about equal in length. I measured this by taking the length of the grip, which is usually a set size, depending on the sword type of course, and then dividing that through the length of the actual cutting and stabbing part of the weapon. Now I will admit it's not a perfect way of doing it, and to an extent flawed, but now we at least have an idea of how long they are, and they seem to be about the same length. And it seems like they're a normal one-handed longsword, also known as a bastard sword or a hand-and-a-half sword. So, pretty normal stuff. The reason why this matters is because of reach. If one of them has a significantly longer weapon, then they can strike while being at a safe distance from their foe. And even when we look at the crossguard that they have, which is this little bit, then we again see nothing special. They both have a solid one preventing any blade from sliding down and cutting into your hands, which can be quite unpleasant as you can imagine.
Join me, Link, and I will make your face the greatest in Korodai, or else you will die.
I'll never join you!
And both of them also have crossguards that go up as well, with the Force Sword having some sort of half circle with points, and the Master Sword having these wing portions going up. This can be really useful for trapping a blade at the crossguard, which can limit your enemy from attacking you. So that's a thing both of them have that's very handy when using it. There's only one thing that really sets them apart, the shape of the actual blade, because one is crude, makes the sword heavier, and also not as good at cutting, in certain ways. I'm talking about the Master Sword, of course. Because first of all, it has this little thing at the bottom, which doesn't add anything but weight. Then when you look at the grind of the blade, you can see it's rough and they left a lot of material on it. And it doesn't even taper to the center or anything. This will make it both less effective at stabbing and cutting and also more effective. Mostly because the blade is heavier. However, in general, they did a better job on the Force Sword. So clearly in terms of design, the Force Sword wins. But is this also the case when it comes to the elements that power it? Well, probably not. While we aren't sure how powerful these elements are, there's a high chance that they are equal to or weaker than a Master Sword's godly blessings. So because of this, we will say that they are equally powerful in this department, with a slight edge to the Force Sword. Now on to our next point, their abilities. Now both weapons can harm ones carrying Triforce pieces, and of course they can also vanquish evil. But there are some differences, because the Master Sword can destroy magical barriers and break curses that involve powerful dark magic, and can also lock away demons. Stuff like this is seen during the events of the Wind Waker, where you finally go to confront Ganondorf, and at the end of Ocarina of Time when getting rid of the King of Evil. Aside from that, it can also unleash Skyward Strikes by channeling heavenly energy, which can deal quite a bit of damage. Also, before people mention the time travel in Ocarina of Time, it was only able to do this because of the sages. So it isn't the power that the weapon holds itself. Now, while this seems impressive, the Force Sword can do so much more than just this. It can do the following: repelling and banishing evil, creating clones of the wielder, providing time travel when in need of force gems, sensing portals to the dark world, sealing away bad guys, and even breaking curses. We see more than enough examples of this in titles like the Minish Cap and Four Swords Adventures, where you go back in time when not having enough force gems, cloning yourself when hunting down Vati, and destroying as well as interacting with dark magic. Clearly this weapon can do a whole lot more than the Master Sword, but does it make the Force Sword truly better? Well, yes. One of them is seen a lot more to defeat evil, but in the end the Force Sword has way more abilities and also quite powerful ones. So when it comes to this category, that weapon wins for sure. To be honest, it was quite obvious from the start. Now let's move on to our very last subject, versatility. While it's great to have abilities and certain powers, the way you use them is even more important. So what could you possibly do with the Master Sword in combat when facing a foe? Sure, you can use it like a normal sword, hacking, slashing and stabbing away at any foe that comes around the corner to stop you. However, that's kind of it. It doesn't have a lot of abilities after all that could be useful in combat scenarios, so it's limited in a way. The only thing you could do is use the mighty Skyward Strike, which is actually a powerful attack you can do from a distance. For example, an enemy charges at you directly, coming in at high speed, and you need to do something before you're screwed. Now, you could just raise your shield and block the incoming attack, and then you have the option to counterattack. Simple. However, is that really effective? Well, no. What you could also do is quickly charge a Skyward Strike and hit your foe from afar, so it can be useful as a ranged attack, and when fused with electricity, even to stun an opponent briefly. However, while this is fun and all, the Force Sword's power of manipulating time and creating clones is way more useful. Let's say you're losing a battle, being on the last slither of health. No worries, because... And so the whole fight starts over again, giving you another shot at an encounter you had originally lost. However, you probably don't even need to use that power, because the godly Force Sword gives you the ability to make 3 clones of yourself. This makes it ridiculously powerful. You have the option of commanding 4 links all wielding a Force Sword. Even if the Master Sword wielder shot out as many Skyward Strikes as he could, then he still wouldn't win the encounter. There are just too many links coming for him at once, and a lot of the attacks he throws out would still be dodged. You could even deploy all kinds of complex strategies with these 4 dudes under your control, like some sort of pincer movement, or a surprise attack where one distracts and the other 3 are the surprise elements. So of course the Force Sword also wins this round. The clones are just too useful, to be honest. Now in the end, which blade is better? Well, it's quite obvious, isn't it? The Force Sword, of course.
Hey guys, how's it going? Falls. This means actually never beat the game. I guess I lost the challenge. Fuck. The AA also bought the gunman, so that's another. So after a while, we're getting so much money that I actually needed the computer to do the upgrading for me because it was taking like 5 minutes to buy all the new ammo. So I added this to the program and now we can just let him play. Wait, hold on a second. Wait a second. No, why? When the did he do that? The fucking dickhead hired a gunman. Oh. You know what? I don't care. I'm not starting again because the fucking AI bought a gunman. Oh, Alright, fine. This is Henry. He wasn't fucking invited, but he's here anyway. And he will stay here with us for the rest of the run-through. To this day, I have no idea what the fuck happened. The program shouldn't have been able to buy a gunman. Whatever. Moving on. Everyone gets lonely, I guess. Yeah. Cheeky fun fact. Fun fact of the day. Code Bullets fun fact. This game continues forever. So you technically can never beat it. I thought it, like, stopped at day 40 or something. So yeah, don't I look like the fool? Yeah, so since you can actually never beat the game, I guess I lost the challenge. The AI also bought the gunman, so that's another way I lost. So yeah, let's just see how far the AI can go, and I guess you can decide if I win or not. Yeah, it will be an ambiguous ending, like in novels and shit. The ending is up to you. Yeah, that sounds like I know what I'm doing. Anyway, back to the game. Okay, so I've got so many bullets at this point that the game is starting to break. Obviously, the game developers never expected anyone to buy a 10,000 bullet, but we're just getting started, baby. Alright, so at this point, the amount of ammo that we have is so large that it lasts us the entire day. So really, we don't need to buy anymore. So in the current mode we're doing, the program clicks at about 140 clicks per second. So at this point, I did a few cheeky upgrades to further increase the number of clicks, after which the AI was able to reach a whopping 300 clicks per second. That's a lot. That's a few. It's really not necessary. I'm pretty sure the AI could have continued for a long time without this, but when you got bullets to spare, you gotta make it fucking rain, boy. So yeah, 300 a second is pretty ridiculous. I could increase it even further, but the game is actually starting to wig out a bit, so let's keep it here. So it's honestly pretty boring at this point. The AI shoots so absurdly fast that there is no hope for these poor people. They hardly make it on the screen, and no one has even damaged their house in like 80 days. And on top of that, Henry the Madman isn't taking any prisoners either. So let's super fast forward through this bitch. So something has happened. I unfortunately didn't have my screen capture software running when this happened, but I quickly whipped out my phone and recorded it live. Fuck! So yeah, we broke the fucking game, baby! Woo! I'm counting that as a win. The game would have never ended, so that's as close to an end as you're gonna get. But yeah, no, it's fucked, mate.
Nice.
Now, as a kid, I always thought Link was a master sword fighter and actually had some real skills when it came down to that. Especially in Twilight Princess, he seemed like a proper swordsman, and even got some really cool looking attacks later on in the game, known as the hidden skills. However, Thinkifer and I actually looked into this stuff over on his channel, and in Breath of the Wild, Link is actually quite bad at it all. He's clumsy and doesn't use real techniques and tactics when taking on enemies, so in real life, he would be beaten in seconds. But then I started thinking, what would happen if Link used the hidden skills against a real-life warrior? Well, it would most likely end bad. Very bad. And we will explain why. Now you get these skills in the game by finding a Howling Stone and then performing the new song found there. Once you howl the melody with the White Wolf, which is the wolf form of the hero's spirit, the skeletal warrior will ask Link to transform into his human self and find him, pinpointing the location on the young hero's map. As soon as you finally found him, you will be transported to a cloudy area, where you will be taught the hidden skill by the hero's spirit. Now there are up to 7 hidden skills which can be learned throughout the game. However, only the first one is required to complete the game. All others are optional, to be honest. Although most people do get all of them because they do look quite sick and they can be handy.
However, while all of them are cute and seem like an epic as well as effective way of taking out an enemy, are they actually useful? Well, let's look at them one by one and see if they can truly help our hero, or would they actually just screw him over in almost all circumstances. First up, the famous ending blow, which every player in the world has probably used at some point, even using it to defeat Ganondorf. Now, as its name implies, this is a decisive stroke, the coup de grace if you will, and when performed correctly, it will eliminate any enemy if properly executed. To describe how this attack is carried out, what you basically do is knock down an enemy, then finish him off by jumping in the air and performing a down thrust right into the enemy's chest, which looks incredibly brutal and instantly ends their life. But if one was to use this technique in real life, would it work out in a similar way? Well, no, because you see, there are a couple of problems with this technique. First of all, an enemy can roll out of the way, which is even seen in the game. If your foe does this, you will be stuck temporarily vulnerable while trying to pull the sword out of the ground. To be honest, this is probably one of the worst case scenarios, and most of the time you wouldn't keep trying to get it out of the ground because the enemy would be upon you in seconds. Furthermore, this would leave you without a weapon, or with a piece of steel stuck in between your ribs if you're not fast enough. There is a reason why people don't do flashy moves like that most of the time. Why? Because you just stab him while still standing. To add to this, putting your foot on his back can even be a mistake since your opponent can mess with your footing, or stabbing you in the leg. But, there's actually another thing that can happen which would be way worse than any other thing that I mentioned. Let's just say the enemy is down and Link jumps, but all of a sudden the enemy turns around and sticks out a sword, or a spear even. Well, that don't sound too healthy for our boy Link, does it? You know it, I know it, we all know it. Link would jump right on top of it, instantly taking him out, and there's no way you will walk away from that unless he dodges it in the last second. And there are even more things that could go wrong in a scenario like this, since you're in the air falling down, which greatly limits if not eliminates your movement options as well as messes with your stability.
Now on to our next one, shield attack, which is actually extremely useful in battle and was even used by real-life warriors throughout history. Which is surprising. All you do with this simple skill is bash the enemy with your shield to open their defenses. To be honest, it's quite simple, but oh my lordy, it's super effective. Attacks like this can be seen in old books about medieval combat all the time. Shield bashing is really handy, and not just to open up someone's defenses. Because back in the day, people also used smaller shields known as bucklers, which you held in one hand and didn't strap to your arm at all. And they used it as a way to stop and deflect blows, as you would imagine. But they also used it as some sort of knuckle dusters to hit their opponent with, when given the chance, of course. Although we have to mention that these were mostly used in one-on-one battles, being terrible for group fights. But you could do stuff like this with any type, hitting with the front of the shield or even the edge, as well as being able to limit their movement options. This video you're looking at right now from Roland Warjika? I don't know. Put it on the screen.
At the speed of sound. Mind games. Yeah, true.
That's the name. Epic. I don't know how to pronounce it. This guy is great though. And he's also a great example of how Vikings used their shields in combat to get the upper hand. So we gotta say, this tactic is legit and also extremely good in a lot of circumstances. Now we get to the back slice, where you roll around the foe.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Oh no.
See anyone doing anymore.
It was
I'm
over
kind of
9.
glad that it died
It's
though.
bad.
I'm glad that it died because it was really annoying.
It was. It got really
It was
bad.
so overdone.
It was so weird.
It's like the hit or miss meme.
Yeah.
Hit or miss. That's what I've been doing to like servers. What I do is like worlds is like, and I was like, oh hello man, it's gone.
This man is gone.
Fucking love that sound.
And then if you play Prime,
That messes up like our eyes in VR.
and if you play Prime, then it's
Oh wow.
Dogo dogo dogo.
Hold on.
Dogo 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 dogo. Bogo dogo dogo.
Bubble double bubble.
Bogo dogo dogo.
Bubble bubble bubble. I'm Addy.
Bogo dogo dogo.
Hey, what's up?
My brain is like.
Mush.
Call me from your
Oh my
phone.
god, got bastard with the coffee.
You're gonna need to call me on your cell phone.
Hey, what am I to be my love?
What is
Call me on my cell phone. Oh my god,
How
it
do you
looks so
feel
weird.
about calling me Alex? Because you never call me that. You just call me by my full name.
Like Alexis. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yo,
like,
T-Rex
whatever you
skull,
want to call
hell
it.
yeah.
I can call you Alex.
I actually like Al.
Big
Hell
Al.
yeah. No,
Big
legit,
Al.
I'm making one of my masks. I literally drew myself with the T-Rex skull mask. Legit. That was amazing.
I gotta fix it.
Zoom.
Yeah, because it gets like
That
this.
and I
I'm
plan
outie.
to, that and I plan to just erase it. You
You
should
did what I did.
just have an iSign, but it's like, for some reason it's like transparent or something, and I need to like set it back up and give it a material.
I literally just use Unity spheres for my iShine.
Hell yeah.
It works. And the thing is, I parent it to the head, so like it does like that thing that my Link used to do.
I was thinking about that. But I had to worry that we would mess up.
Ow, my leg.
I'm actually really satisfied with these like hair dynamics.
There's nothing that I can see anything on your mouth that I think didn't look fine.
I'm hiding in the flowers.
that fucking eye thing that like took way too much time to fix.
That's okay, now you know. So when if it does happen in the future, you know exactly what to do.
ending up directly behind him, which gives you a chance to strike. In-game, this is one of the most useful hidden skills, mostly because it can be used anytime, and is one of the fastest ways to attack and defeat armored foes. Now, this attack could be useful, but it's also quite impossible to perform in real life. You might be able to do the roll, maybe, but jumping up in such a way to attack is probably not gonna work. You might even break your ankle when doing so. Another problem you will have is edge alignment. You can't properly cut something if the edge is on the wrong angle. What happens then is that you will get a glancing blow that won't really get far. Aside from that, you could easily be knocked off balance when jumping up, for example if someone shield bashes you. Even when you roll, you would be open for an attack. For example, someone could just kick you or stab down with a spear or sword. And as soon as you commit to this attack, there is no going back, to be honest. If something like this would happen, you would certainly fall on the ground, probably dropping your sword, leaving you open for an attack. So yet again, in practice, this move is not useful at all, and will probably be your end, unless you do it perfectly and surprise your opponent.
Our next one is the Helm Splitter. Here, you first do a shield attack to stun the enemy and then jump into the air above the foe and slice its head in a vertical flipping motion, which is a pretty dumb attack. He could easily just thrust forward with his sword and end it. I mean, seriously, he has a really great opportunity here, so yeah, Link really needs to cut to the chase. And yet again, it's an attack which looks mostly impossible to perform in real life. However, there is more wrong with it. You see, the thing is, when he jumps, his sword is above his head, so yeah, he can strike down with a lot of force, but his shield is not in a position where it can deflect or block any counterattacks. So if they counterattack, he has nothing going
What's
for him.
up?
Aside from that point, the attack is really well telegraphed. So you're showing the enemy what you're doing, allowing them to react to all of it, which does set you up for, surprise surprise, a counterattack. I mean, what someone could easily do is literally just slash or stab, and that's the biggest problem. problem. You're not on stable ground and you're completely open, which means you can't really defend yourself well. Another thing your opponent could do is just charge and knock you to the ground. In the end, it would most likely not end well. Now on to the next, the Mortal Draw, which is again flawed, but this time for completely different reasons. Firstly, performing this move in the game is already risky since you wait until the very last moment to attack. The enemy needs to get close, then you move your hand to the sword, and when activating it you quickly draw your sword and perform a devastating blow to the nearest enemy. Nintendo's inspiration for the move likely originated from Japan's Aido sword style, which has a focus on fluid, smooth, and well-executed cuts being made from the sheath, or saya as the Japanese call it. It's likely that draw cutting has a real-world application in self-defense for the samurai. However, more than likely it would have been used for honing their ability to cut cleanly, most likely to maintain a certain level of humility during an act of seppuku, which is essentially an execution of sorts performed by a kaishakunin, which is a person appointed with the responsibility of making a clean cut at the end of this act. Anyway, when doing any kind of execution, one usually barely moves, and whilst these draw cuts are quite fast, they would likely only surprise enemies a little since it's kind of out of nowhere, but enemies do expect Link to attack at some point. To be honest, the surprise is the only thing it has going for it, because this strike that Link performs can easily be countered and manipulated. First of all, when Link draws his blade, he does a little spin and then strikes, probably to get more power in the strike, but thanks to this, his back is turned to his enemy, which is a terrible thing to do. We see it a lot in video games as well as movies, but if you did something like this in real life, well, you would have a wound in your back before you know it. Why? Well, you can't defend yourself or even see the attack coming this way, so that's already an issue, but there is more. Link also bundles his sword and shield together when doing this attack. This means that if an enemy sees it coming, they can deflect the attack, and if they do deflect it, it will leave Link's upper body, like the shoulder, open for an attack, while everything he could use to stop this being down on the ground. The crazy thing is, something like this would actually work, but he just does it incorrectly, covering the wrong side, since any incoming attacks that try to counter it could hit his underarm or hand. One other thing to mention is that he keeps this all too close to his body, but this isn't even the only attack where he does this. Sometimes we see him stab and do the same thing, which leaves him open for a similar counterattack. So again, cool move, but a big mistake when you think about it.
Next up, the Jump Strike, which is an upgraded version of Link's already devastating jump attack, being good against groups of enemies. Link will jump into the air, swinging his sword left and right to knock enemies out of the way, and then slam his sword into the ground. Now, you would assume this covers all sides, but it doesn't really, because Link charges it, which also warns foes. And then he performs his attack, where he again jumps and leaves himself completely open for a counterattack. In the end, its problems are similar to all the other hidden skills, being predictable, easy to counter, and it doesn't offer a lot of options as soon as you commit to the attack. The only good thing we can see is that Link learns to have cover when doing this. Now we get to our last hidden skill, which seems to be the most powerful and impressive one, but also highlights how Link's most iconic attack is incredibly flawed. We are talking about the Great Spin, where Link will spin around in place with his sword held out, hitting everything around him. Now, while this is certainly the most impressive attack seen in the game, it would most likely not be effective, because when doing an attack like this, you could easily lose your balance. You're spinning around after all, which forces Link to rotate with it, and keep good form in order to properly cut and not fall over. And there's more that could go wrong, because if an enemy would come in and hit Link's sword redirecting it, then Link would lose all balance and probably fall to the ground. To be honest, it would be interesting to find out how fast he's going and the G-forces he's under, but we will save that for another video. This would already be a great counterattack, just redirect the momentum of the sword. However, there's another thing enemies could do, going low. Just imagine an enemy ducking down and stabbing from below with a spear. This would also be devastating. So while Link's spin attack is a classic, it shouldn't work. Even when he hits an enemy, there's still a big chance he will lose control and fall. You're going from spinning at a certain speed to crashing into something. This would be quite a shock for Link and could stop the spin out of nowhere. And a great example of this not working is being seen in the fight with Zant, who also does a spin attack at the end, which isn't that effective to be honest. Now, clearly the hidden skills aren't really useful, but they do look really, really, really cool. And that's their goal. However, this isn't the only game where Link utterly fails in the field of combat, because we covered Link's fighting style in Breath of the Wild as well over on Thinkifer's channel.
And that video is even more detailed than this one, so to get the full picture, be sure to watch that video as well.
Also, don't forget to subscribe to both of our channels.
How about you link to it? Gasp! Such a revolutionary idea. No, fuck you. I know this avatar. This many people in a world is autistic. I'm going to go to my own. Ah!
A few months ago, I was standing next to this beaker, and it somehow just spontaneously broke. This piece of glass just spit itself off, and there was then a hole in the beaker. At the time, the beaker was empty and not doing anything though, so it didn't really matter, and I honestly didn't think too much about it. It was definitely weird, and I didn't really understand why or how it happened, but I ended up just forgetting about it and moving on with whatever I was doing. A few weeks later though, when I was filming for a video, it happened again, but this time, the beaker was full of acid. Thankfully, it was just all dilute acid, so it wasn't really a huge disaster, but it did end up spilling everywhere. When it happened the first time, I thought that it was just some weird freak accident or something, but now that it happened again, I started to worry about what was happening. The break that happened was very weird and was also exactly the same, where this small piece of glass was ejected from the beaker. I tried thinking about what would cause it to break so weirdly like this, and it only took me a couple minutes to figure it out. Back in August, I posted a video about making plasma in the microwave, and to do this, I ran it in beakers every time. The plasma was extremely hot though, and in several runs I let it go for a really long time, and it probably got close to melting the glass. This wasn't very good though, because after that, as the glass cooled, it probably introduced a bunch of new internal stresses. To avoid this, I would have had to anneal it, which meant that I'd have to cool it at a very slow rate and then hold it at a certain temperature so that all these internal forces could slowly even out. I of course didn't do that though, and the moment it was done in the microwave, I just popped it out and let it cool back down to room temperature. Also, in that plasma video, I found that as the plasma formed, it would pull sodium ions from the glass, and this could also potentially destabilize it. So, in the cases that I just let the plasma sit there, it might have been messing it up in two ways. After this, the glass was potentially under some extreme stress, but I didn't know that at the time, so I mixed everything back with all my normal unused beakers. However, now, I had no idea which ones were the good ones, or the ones that might just potentially explode. They all visually looked the same, and the only way that I thought that I could maybe see the difference was by looking at the glass through polarized light. This is often used to see the different stress patterns in glass, and it probably could have worked, but I just didn't really think it was worth all the effort. Also, I'm really not an expert when it comes to glass stress patterns, and I really didn't want to risk even just missing one faulty one. The idea of just having even one beaker that could potentially break on its own was really scary to me, not only for safety reasons, but also it could potentially ruin an entire project. So, I decided that my only option was to just sacrifice all of them. Thankfully though, because they were my own branded beakers, I was able to buy them in bulk for a lot cheaper, and this isn't a huge financial loss. I felt like it was a total waste if I just threw them out though, so instead, I decided to have some fun with it. On my main channel, Nile Red, I recently made one of my favorite chemicals called chromal chloride. It's a blood red, toxic, and carcinogenic liquid, and I just think that it's really fun and interesting.
La da 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 da. What's wrong, buddy? Do you have a problem? I'm late. I'm late for a very important day. Tiny Jolene.
After making it though, I was left with a lot of dirty glassware and a bunch of chromium waste that I had to deal with. So, in this video, I'm gonna show you guys how I dealt with everything. When I made the chromal chloride, I did it in a flask that was already connected to a distillation setup.
Dude,
This
what's your
way,
fucking
after it was made,
problem?
I was able to
Dude!
immediately distill it
Hey,
and
dude,
separate
what's
it
your
from the
fucking
side
problem?
products.
You got
I
a
collected
problem
everything
here.
on
What's
the
your
other side of the
problem?
setup in a different flask,
problem? Okay, dude. I'm gonna say the N-word. I'm gonna say the N-word.
And when I was done, I just took it off. This left me though with an entire distillation setup that was covered with chromal chloride, as well as a reaction flask with all the side products. To deal with this, the first step was to fill up a container with a solution of sodium sulfite.
Hey, dude, what's your problem?
Thrown downstairs? What the fuck? What's that, dude? Oh, it's from the Zerfluffen StarCraft. It's funny. Just a chick being thrown down the fucking stairs, dude. Am I gonna have to call PETA? Dude, we're like the Geico Gecko, I just realized. What's going on? Hi, Sally. Well, it's a boy. Hi. What else do you want me to find out?
Most people that upload models put in full body nowadays.
Please don't crash, please. Please don't crash.
Okay, I need to go higher.
Oh, thank God.
What's in the bag?
I don't know what's in, but I don't know what I'm saying, dude.
What's in the bag, bitch?
To be completely honest, I don't even know, dude. What the fuck is that, dude?
Semen spraying.
Uh.
You like it?
You say what's in the bag? What's in the socks? What's in the socks? Oh.
Yes, let's raise our voice a little louder for no fucking reason. Yes, that's great.
There better not be anything funny going on over here, dude, or I'm gonna have to reach into my bag and beat you with the hammer that's in it. You got a problem, dude?
Yeah, on a swap move. No, I want to swap, like a swap. Can I have a hammer? And you have the gun?
No, it's my hammer. It's a good hammer.
I want the hammer.
My father's father gave it to me. We have a very quick breeding process.
Ah, I see. It's the family. The family heirloom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man, dude. Not. I understand. I completely understand.
Just like my weird little peg legs, these are also family. Just like my weird little peg legs, these are also family heirlooms. I don't entirely know what else is in the bag. I dare not reach in far enough to find out. I heard my great grandfather had murdered a prostitute and stored her in this bag. I don't dare reach that deep in. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, he went that way, dude. He went that way, dude. Well, he is lagging.
And he lags away.
A small bag, but a very big storage.
Yeah, dude.
Exactly.
Just gonna go ahead and get rid of this one and close this menu. Go over here, favorite this. I like this avatar.
What was the other one?
What, gun?
Yeah, you pulled in. What is this?
Got a problem there, dude?
Kinda cool.
Just wait until I get VI. You're fucking dead then, kiddo.
It moves with the hand.
Dude, don't shoot it to me.
Shoot it.
Relax, dude.
Shoot it. It has ligma.
No, dude.
It has ligma. Shoot it.
No, dude. No, dude. Okay, I will fuck you up.
You ain't gonna fuck up anything, dude. You're just a fucking helmet. Couldn't fuck me up, dude. I'm a prinny. I rule you. Dude.
Don't worry, I'll give you a gift. I will put it in your bag. You can have my shotgun, my dude.
Nah, my dude. I don't have fingers. I can't use guns, dude.
Don't worry. One day.
One day we shall evolve. And then, when I pass on this bag to my son, he will pass on the bag to his son, who will pass the bag down to his son, who will pass the bag down to his son, who may, just very unlikely, but it's possible, develop a finger.
Exactly.
What the hell? Do you guys mind helping me? I'm kind of broke my back.
Yeah, you're fine, dude. Just walk it off. Just walk it off. Do some stretches.
Okay.
Okay, you see, look, you did it. You're fine. You got a problem there, dude? Good. Otherwise, I'd have to put you in the bag. You don't want to know what's in the bag. Not even I know what's in the bag. It is a secret to everybody. Yo, I just figured out what's in the bag.
What's in the bag?
Rape.
I couldn't get into League. Like, I tried playing, like, a bunch of my friends I played Smite with played League too. I tried to play League with them on League. I couldn't get into it. Like, I played Ash a little bit, because she's kind of like me.
Yeah.
But
A little bit. Caitlyn's the closest thing to need.
right?
Yeah.
But
Fucking dude, I could get you in the league if you want. Like I will,
What's up, dude?
Whatever. But fucking I played shit. I have okay. I'm really proud of this. I have 1-star diamond on Sylvanas. I was a fucking Sylvanas one trick last season.
yes.
Why not? What
I
are you
love
doing?
Sylvanas so fucking much.
I have him at rank
Rape.
6 right now. He's not one of my diamonds, but he's on the list.
Not even I know what's in the bag.
It's hard. I think the hardest part about being support was getting Sylvanas and then getting Ganesh and Diamond. Actually, a painful and shit, but I got through it.
Rape.
The concentration here really didn't matter though, so I just filled it with water and threw in a random amount of the sulfite. Then I took the setup apart.
Ah, damn, that was a good milkshake, dude.
Love it. Oh my gosh. I love the staff that she comes with. Exactly how it is in the game. That's awesome.
As carefully as possible, and I tried to not spill any of the chromochloride. However, dropping a small amount of it was almost unavoidable. Every piece was dropped into the sulfite bath, and the red color quickly turned green because the chromium was being reduced. This was converting it from its nasty and red 6+ oxidation state to its green 3+ one, which was much safer and not nearly as toxic. Pretty much everything that I used in this project was put into this bath at some point, and I let it soak until I didn't see any of the red color. Then after that, I could take the piece out and rinse it with a bunch of water to get rid of any chromium ions that might still remain. As I said before, the chromium was
I am a member of the Salty Gang.
Oh shit. Sure. Damn. I'm actually gonna put the safety settings on custom. I set it on normal. I'm not getting that anymore.
But yeah, so I was.
Yeah,
I guess
drew a picture of you. It was amazing.
he was friends with one of my friends, and we were watching. We were watching Return of the King. Return of the King, though, literally the longest one. And he just jumped in randomly. I saw a cowboy.
I'm gonna go out here.
Cause I have a tiny brain. Leave me alone.
Should be so overwhelmed. Yeah.
Smooth brain boy.
Was it your
Stinky
avatar
boy.
or his that spawned in?
It's pretty. That's pretty self-deprecating, dude.
Do you still have some of the other stuff? Like he had the
Smooth
cucumber.
stinky boy.
No, it doesn't have anything.
I see.
A little bit. Is that a little kiss? You're gonna break someone?
Get out of here, dude. You're not even cool anymore.
Oh, it's broken.
Me?
No,
That's unfortunate.
Mr. Freeman over here.
It's Fremont. Fremont.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
More like free gay.
Oh shit, that's sick. Everything's Ricardo with him.
Of course it is. He's got a Let's go.
Oh, shoot. Oh, wait.
was now in its 3+ state, but it still wasn't something that I could just pour down the drain. So, I was actually kind of making more waste here that I would eventually have to deal with. However, as long as I was working with the chromochloride, I had to keep a bath like this around. This bath was of course useful for washing things, but it was also for safety purposes in case I had to neutralize a whole bunch of the chromochloride. With that being said though, this meant that this bath was something that I'd have to have for the entire project, and I would only be able to deal with it at the very end. So now I went back to the flask, which was full of the reaction side products, as well as a bunch of chromochloride. The side
Where's that one little furry fuck?
Do you know who I am?
I don't know, you bitch. If I land on the one, I'm gay.
With that attitude, I will not follow you
Fuck.
on Instagram.
Why was he a naked Jimmy Neutron?
Hello there, play quick.
That dude came
You got a problem, dude?
hyper as fuck. That's weird.
Do you seem to do you have a problem? Is there a problem, dude?
Do I have a problem? No. I was saying hello to you.
Oh.
Did you not hear me?
You're a little hard to understand, dude.
Do you hear me?
I do hear you, dude.
I added the kid too, and then he became annoying. No offense to him. I love him.
Don't touch shit, Carlo.
Okay. Yeah, you get it.
And there he is again.
Bitch boy's back.
Like he-
Bitch boy's back. Bitch boy's back. Bitch boy. Bitch boy. Bitch boy's back. Hey. Yo. Fucking condo.
Fucking stop it.
I know.
Yeah, chill, man.
Yo, I broke my
Honestly.
fucking knuckle earlier. I
Sky,
need to go to the
man.
hospital. My shit's broken.
Put the cookie down.
It wouldn't be bad if it didn't fucking zoom in. It forces me to zoom in on you. No, you stop. Fucking stop. Stop. What the fuck are you doing? Quit.
Dang, dude.
No, you gotta finger around in there.
Come on, man. How you gonna do me like that, Arnold?
Hello, bird.
What's up, dude?
It's a bird.
I am a prinny.
You're a bird.
I am a prinny.
No, you're a
I am a familiar of the demons of hell, dude.
No, you're a bird.
I am a familiar of the demons of hell. In my bag lies unspeakable horrors. In my bag lies rape, dude.
Yo, can I see it?
No.
It would be a shame if I was Bill Cosby.
Yes, it is. Hematoma.
And you look like a fuckboy, dude.
Are you role playing right now? What did you say to me? Are you role playing right now or what?
You heard what I said to you, dude. You look like a fuckboy.
Okay, so can you shut up then? How about you can get blocked? How about that? I don't care. Do it, please, so I don't have to listen to your voice. Go on. Block me.
Who that voice
I
come
don't
from
listen to
heavens?
your voice. Look at that. Block me. Can you block me already?
But
I can't hear you. Can you shut up? Block me. Block me. What happened? No more. Oh, it's because I turned off your voice. He didn't block me. He just wanted to talk shit while I was muted. I'll do the honors, don't worry.
Yeah, he is pretty annoying, isn't he, dude?
It just takes one person.
Hello there. What do you mean? You guys are having fun? Did I interrupt the safe space or? I'm sorry. I remember. I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Very shy, huh?
Money, 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 money.
Penis.
Money, 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 money.
Do you guys need to talk? Is this a get together we set up or? Alright, I respect it. Honestly, respect it. I see you guys having a good time. That's a good thing. I'm happy for you guys, though.
Yeah, we'll have a good time soon, man. Cheers.
Thanks, man. I can't drink because I'm underage, but you know, I'll pretend like I am. So.
Oh no, no, you don't.
The baby.
Just
You want to be my baby?
Huh.
Alright, word.
Still too young, man.
Respect.
Calm down.
No, it's going to be my daughter. She's my daughter. Alright, well. My baby.
Oh, yeah.
Not a girlfriend. You stupid.
These Austrians are fucking
Shut
wild
up,
now.
down.
Shut up with your granola bowl.
Fuck!
Don't
Get
throw
out
your
of
granola
here.
bowl outside. I don't care.
Also, this one's weird. Let's go
Get
find
out
another
of
one.
here.
I was picking up a bit.
Is that the real Leafy? Leafy, is that
Holy
you?
shit, I think that guy is famous. Guys, I think this guy is famous. Guys, I think this
This guy
guy
is
is famous.
Who cares if somebody's famous, dude? They suck dick just like the rest of us.
Where have you been?
He's saying that.
The bird lord in the sky. That's who's saying it.
Ooh, I like that Star Wars
Get out of
one.
there.
I want to steal that.
Get out of the ceiling. Get out of the ceiling.
I will not get out of the ceiling, Leafy.
This guy's in my air ducts. Get the fuck out of my air ducts. Get him out.
No.
I swear to God, if you stay there, I'm gonna call pest control.
I am going to shit in your air ducts, dude.
Don't do that. You know how bad that's gonna smell.
Yeah, I do know how bad that's gonna smell. It's like taking a fucking dump in the back of the toilet bowl.
Don't you dare shit in my air ducts.
Yeah, dude, that was. Ah, damn. Ah, I can feel that one. I think I made a tear. Ah. Just gonna wipe my ass on the sheet metal. Hold on. I'm just gonna wipe my ass on the sheet metal. Hold on, dude.
Don't.
Ah.
I see you.
Because I am all powerful. I am a minion. I am a servant. Indentured servitude to the armies of hell. I am the Prinny.
This guy's cringe. This guy's cringe. He's a minion. This guy's a minion.
I am a minion of the lords of hell. One of them is a hot lolly.
Coming to the voice. I'm coming.
No square. Don't
Yes.
punch me in the.
Alright, no, normally this is like my go-to spot.
This guy, I will reach them.
How's it going, Dad?
Keep going. You'll reach him eventually.
What was
This
that?
is my no square.
Arnold was right.
I am invincible. I am inevitable. I am unstoppable. In my bag lies the horrors.
Smite me then. Show us your horrors.
In the bag is rape.
This time.
You said that
not been like too different for me. Cause I, you know, I normally stay inside, but it's been a little different.
I am going to shit in the ventilators.
Go anywhere.
My school is actually
Ah!
decided like summer classes are gonna be online also, so they're not gonna be back to the fall.
Wait, let me climb. I see you. You bird.
Shut the fuck up. You
I'm
shut the fuck up.
What's in that bag, huh? I don't see nothing in there.
That's fun.
Huh?
The rape is an ethereal concept.
I touch his butt.
Yo, yeah, you taking a degree in what? Computer science?
No,
Yeah,
I'll
nerd.
touch
Guess what
it.
I'm taking? I'm taking a college course in football. I'm taking a college sports.
I don't know what football is. I know what football is.
You wish to see what is in the bag? I will show you what is in the bag. This is to go even further beyond. Yeah! Ah! Yeah!
Oh my god.
Alright.
Become one with the tomato peed.
You demon. I'll put you in this casket.
Tomato peed.
Just cut it in half. Just
Come here.
Just cut it.
So what's your major?
Lips sewn together to anus. We are Legion.
I just love it how the head is quite literally up the ass. Like there's no ass eating. It's just in.
Indeed.
But I can't remember who it is.
I'm on Percocet.
They have invoked what is in the bag, and now the bag will destroy the world.
You know?
Wait, couldn't we just like pull it out? Like just like
You should pull the dick out of your ass.
Oh, you saw that? You saw that video?
Yeah, I did.
This is my
I'm gonna go hide it from humanity.
There is no escape.
Connor, you do stand up, right?
No.
There's a stage up
Time
there.
to change back to the true me.
Why are there so many segments?
Show you a segment.
No! I can't actually see it. Sorry.
Oh, sick, dude. That's sick.
That hurts.
I need Chin. I'm only 6.
Star battles, dude.
What the hell's that?
I don't know.
This is so weird.
I never thought I would experience this.
I was like, oh god. Austin, how's your life been going, man?
Doesn't matter. You still look pretty cool.
Gotta love it when you're
If laughing so hard, I might have corona. So I can get this.
Oh,
I am Legion. I am inevitable. I am Tomato Peed. Rape-a-peed!
It's like pointing.
So, what are you gonna do tonight?
Not finger guns, point.
My finger's the size of your hand.
Well, my hand's the size of your finger.
I don't know what you want to do.
Hell yeah. Is that inappropriate? My bad. I'm a penguin, so that'd probably be highly illegal.
A little bit.
Hey, that one guy's on.
Who's the one guy? Oh, the guy who did the whole.
Oh my god! You're a trap. Without question, this is definitely a trap.
Is he in a world?
No, you suck my dick, you fucking nerd!
Shut your mouth, you goofy. You absolute clown. Look at you.
I am Legion.
Pipe down.
I am inevitable.
Shut your mouth, stupid.
Who we spitting on? Who we spitting on?
Sit around people.
Who we spitting on?
Yeah, I do that.
I heard someone spit. Who the fuck were you spitting on? God damn it.
Bro, you ain't got no shaders on this one.
Yo, where did you get Final Fantasy?
I feel you. You need some shaders.
I got it off a
Toyomi
world, but
shaders.
I know you don't know where it's at.
There's some called Toyomi
Whoa,
shaders.
what is with the Snorlax,
Get those, you
dude?
import it, and then you put.
Fuck.
I know, but you kind of like
one word.
in a way.
Doesn't look retarded. I'm confused yet aroused.
Wait, where do you
The
get
trap blocked me, didn't they?
Where do you get it from? The VR.
Do you have do you have his Discord?
Yeah, the trap blocked me, XD.
Is that a yes? I'll link it to her and then I'll send it to you.
They're trading discords. What do you mean?
Oh, that's cool.
Wait, who made this?
They're doing drugs.
Who made what? This is a Psycho Updates avatar. Is that yours? I just edited it.
They should get rid of the backup.
If you shoot
Yeah,
me,
you can
only
cut
brave
it
you
off.
Get rid of
will.
the
I'm
one?
just
It's not even mine.
Anybody want to go do karaoke? We're
What you
really
mean?
bad at it.
Hell yeah.
The back says Psycho updates.
All right. Cooper,
Yeah,
Cooper,
it's a
tell me
Psycho
if you're
Updates
You guys are
avatar.
not gonna
do
point.
it. We're doing it again.
Are you Asian, bro? No.
How'd I find it last time?
The trap was in the song last time. That's kind of sad.
Wow, are you Asian?
Just added you on Discord. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yes.
Hello there. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna add you back.
No, you.
Nerd.
No, you.
Stop it. Stop making fun of me. Just because I have cocks in my throat. It's a serious condition called gay.
Hold on, I'm gonna fucking.
I just have some like Psycho Updates one.
Do you have a problem? You cannot kill the tomato pede. The tomato pede will inhale you. I am currently finding the trap over there on Discord so I can bully them. I know what their Discord is. Hmm.
Oh no, that's just beautiful.
Where the fuck did that cocksucker with the crasher go?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I left the game and then.
That little chicken shit ain't gonna get away with that. What do they think they're doing? I'll find them.
Yeah, the guy here. Yeah, I blocked him because I'm not dealing with that. I'm just gonna hang out with my friends and family, not deal with that.
So he's gained his way.
He's better than yours.
True.
Better than mine.
I can't. Bro. I'm so fucked. Like I can't understand what exactly by saying.
I put a lot of time and I put a lot of time and effort into this, dude.
Yo, it's so fucking intense. I've never seen anything like this. It's crazy.
Really? What are you on acid, bro?
No.
No.
Unfortunate. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Guys, first time?
No, it's been a while. It's been like 4 months.
Gotcha.
But I got a different type. I used to be like an indica person, and now I'm like a very hybrid. You know, it's I like the difference. It's a
You ever
sweet
try that?
difference.
You ever tried purple monkey ball sack?
No, I just stick with the render shit. I just stick with the cheaper option and just go there and say, give me the cheap shit. And she gives me the cheap shit. That's how it works. I don't ask for
Guess what?
nothing.
You never tried purple monkey ball sack?
Dude, I've exclusively smoked from Dab Cart.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Well, I think they actually have it in
Plus I buy
one of those
mine.
pods.
Plus I buy mine like illegally.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know I don't smoke weed. I'm just fucking kidding. I'll see you guys later.
Fucking idiot. I love how I was actually like paying attention to him and trying to learn something useful. Like I was literally paying attention to him so badly.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
hella funny. I was so entertained by the conversation. God damn it.
What are these guys doing over here?
Yeah, let's see what's going on over here. Hello.
Hold on.
And now it is time to play 4D chess. It's going to be pretty memeful. Now it is time to close all of my other programs, except for my browser. Close this. Close Streamlabs.